our channel. If you're new here, I am Agus. There's people walking in front of the window. Anyways, welcome. I hope you're having a great day. And for today's video, I wanted to do my top things or recommendations or things to think about when you're moving countries. I've moved countries twice now, and the first time around I was 19, and my mom did most of the work, and I'm so thankful to her for that because I probably would have been very lost. So yeah, I didn't learn much of the process then because she did do most of it for me, so thank you, Mom, for that. But the second time around was a couple of months ago, and I was already living alone, so I did do all of the process alone. Of course, I had, you know, my mom, boyfriend, friends for emotional support, which I think is very, very important because they can be quite tedious and tough. But this time around, I learned a little more of the process as well that involves moving countries. Of course, when you're moving countries, there are many different routes that you can go. It could be just a family visa, student visa, work visa. There are just many different ways, and depending on the country that you're going to and the country that you're from, rules might be different. So every journey is different for every person. So of course, this is what I learned, and both times I applied for a student visa. So this is from where my perspective is coming from, but hopefully these tips will be helpful to anybody trying to move countries. So yeah, here we go, let's get started. And of course, we have a list. The first one might seem a little silly, but I think it's very, very important to do research. Do lots and lots of research, because sometimes there are many things that you will need, and sometimes you need to get them together before you even start visa applications, or maybe you have different options to go through, or there's just a variety of different variables. So I think that the more you read up on whatever visa you're applying to, if you're applying for school, looking at your options, and kind of just, I don't know, maybe you're in between different countries, so just make sure that you look at stuff that might draw your attention. Maybe if it has a similar culture to yours, or the same language, or if you're moving to a country that maybe you don't know the language of, also taking that into consideration, and how, you know, do you plan to either feel at home or communicate? So I feel like there are so many things that you can, yeah, just do research about. But especially I think it is to be prepared, because you will need quite a lot of things to present in order to, you know, prove your identity and prove your good standing as a citizen. So just make sure that you read up on how many things and exactly what you will need. Like, for example, a passport. If you haven't got one, you will definitely need to get one. So I just think it's just a bunch of research on regarding what you will need. And then what this research can lead into as well is a budget. And I cannot stress enough the importance of a budget. And also, I would say add a 10% contingency, because things end up being more expensive than you expected a lot of the time. It ends up sometimes being more expensive than when you expected. So whenever you're budgeting your move, for example, saying passport fees, visa fees, airplane tickets, luggage, like, I don't know, buying luggage or paying for the luggage on the plane, deposits, whatever it is you need, I would always say add 10%, because prices change. Also, for example, for me, I had to ship a bunch of papers for my UK visa, and that ended up costing so much money. And not only that, they charged me for scanning the papers. So it was so much money that I wasn't expecting on spending. So there's always, or usually, I can't guarantee it, but there's always something else. So I really recommend just adding a little more money to your budget and knowing that you might have to spend it. And then if you don't, then that's great, you know, that's even better. But I just think that it's always good to be prepared, because unexpected things happen, and you know, it's just a matter of being, I guess, again, being prepared for it, because things do change. And for example, when I was applying to the UK visa, I wasn't planning on paying the healthcare surcharge until later, but then I found out that you had to pay it before even applying to the visa. So that was so much money that I wasn't planning on spending then, that I had to. So it's kind of like that, and that was my bad on my own research, hence why the first point is very important, knowing when you have to pay kind of everything I think is very important, which leads me to the next point, which is creating a timeline. Sometimes, for example, if you gotta apply for a certain visa to start school at a specific date, it is very important to read up on how long does the visa take, how long do all of the papers take, because when we were at our induction, meaning classes were only a couple of days away, people were putting in the comments, because we were having a little virtual meeting, that they still didn't have their visa, and that is so scary. And I remember even I ended up getting my plane ticket to move to the UK like 10 days before I left, just because I hadn't gotten my visa back and I wasn't sure if, you know, it was gonna happen. So I think that the timing is very, very important, and knowing by when you need to apply for your visa and do everything. So set yourself deadlines and be like, okay, by then I need to have this done, because, you know, the consequences can be, oh, I just don't have my visa in time and stuff like that. So I think it's very important to know by when you need everything and how long does it take. And again, as always, unpredicted things can happen. Maybe the visa was delayed a little more, it was a busier month and whatnot. So those are things that are out of our control. And I think that can be also the next point, understanding that, and this was probably the hardest part for me, because I just wanted to know, and I was like, is there something else I can do? But literally when you turn in your papers and you're waiting for a response from whatever visa it is, there is nothing you can do. You can only wait and hope that everything was fine. So I think, yeah, there are things that are out of our control, for example, visa timings and ticket prices and so many other things. So it's just a matter of being like, okay, I'm just not in control of that. So it's kind of trying to learn to relax. Another thing that I would say is being organized is really important, because, for example, I kept all of my visa application, I kept everything in a little folder, and I was so close to throwing it out because I was like, when else am I gonna need this? But then when I landed in the UK, they were like, do you have, like, I don't remember exactly the words that he said, and I was like, oh, I just have all of my application. He was like, just hand everything in. So I literally gave him my whole folder, and he went through literally everything. And then he was like, do you have the CAS paper? And the CAS paper is kind of what certifies that the school was sponsoring me. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't print that out. I didn't know I had to print that out. And I didn't have to, but I did have to present it if it was asked. And I didn't know that that was gonna be asked of me. But it actually makes sense because that's kind of what certifies it. But I thought the visa maybe was enough. So then I was like, I'm so sorry, but I have it on my phone. And thankfully I had it like starred in my emails. So I was just like, I had to connect to Wi-Fi really quick. And all of this while being in front of an immigrations officer. I could not believe that. I was just like checking my phone and looking for a paper while the man was just going through my papers, and like the ones that I had already brought. So anyways, I think it's really important to be organized. Don't throw anything out until you're finally, you know, in the country, done, and you know that, you know, it's over. I still haven't thrown anything out just in case. Or for example, most of my papers from the US, I literally kept them from my like school application, visa application. I kept them until I moved out of the country, because I was like, I don't know if this is ever gonna be asked of me again or whatever. So I literally kept every single paper until I moved away, and then I threw it all out except the I-20, which is kind of the CAS paper, which certifies that I am being sponsored by the school. And I didn't throw that out just in case if I ever apply for a tourist visa. I don't know if they would ask about my student visa in the past, but just in case, I'm keeping that. Never know. Literally 2 papers, doesn't hurt to keep them. But that's it for me. Being organized, knowing where you have all your stuff, because for example, I kind of knew that I had that email start, and if not, it would have been chaos, and I probably would have gotten really anxious because I couldn't find it, and you know, that doesn't look good in front of an immigrations officer. So everything turned out fine. He literally grabbed my phone, looked at the email, all good. But again, being organized can be very important. It can be the difference between being very anxious and having a bad time and just turning in your papers. Again, it sounds very silly, but I feel like there are little things that can help you feel less stressed, because moving countries is already stressful enough. So it's kind of little things that you can make the journey a little easier on yourself. Another point that I would say is don't be scared to let go of things, because moving sometimes, you know, you can only go with 1 or 2 suitcases, and it can sound silly, but you know, there are things that are part of you, maybe your room, your house, where you've built a home. So I think it's important to take it as embracing this new chapter of newness, of new things that you are going to be doing, and getting or forming a new home somewhere else. So I feel like that's part of the letting go and kind of trying to embrace the fact that you're going to a new place. And this kind of leads me to the next point, that you're also sometimes leaving your loved ones, whether that's family, friends, whatever it is. So I think it is very important to stay in touch with people. For example, in school, in the orientation, they were like, sometimes we get calls from parents asking if our kids are okay because they're not responding our messages. And I know that's a little bit extreme, but I'm sure, I mean, it's happened to them. That's why they said it. But I think it's so important to, you know, first of all, remain in touch, because, you know, if you love them, I think it's very important as well, especially because, you know, being far away means missing out on quite a lot of things. So I think it's important to stay there for the people that you love in the ways that you can, meaning, you know, that occasional FaceTime, texts, and messages, and this and that. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind, because sometimes it does take up a lot of time, you know, to organize FaceTimes with family and stuff, but it is 100% worth it, because at least for me, I feel so much better after I talk, for example, to my mom. That just makes my day, and I always look forward to our weekly calls, and we can maybe talk for 2 hours. So, you know, it's something that you need to plan for, and sometimes we're like, okay, what day can we talk this week, so that we know, we're aware and looking forward to that moment that we're going to be speaking, and we can also both save time for it, because again, it takes time, and sometimes with time difference it can be tough. So I cannot stress enough how important it is to, you know, stay in touch with those that you love, because, you know, sometimes, again, time difference and you get busy, it can be tough, especially in the beginning. I feel like for me, when I left the first time, I was kind of like overly excited, and, you know, you're busier, meeting people, making friends, but it's important to not forget what you already have back home, and just to, you know, stay in touch and, yeah, with your loved ones. Last but not least, I would say, because sometimes I do get homesick and I miss, well, of course, my family, and then food and all of that stuff. So I think it's important to bring a little piece of home with you. Right now, I don't have anything from home, which makes me feel even more homesick, because I couldn't bring any of the food that I already had in the US with me, because I just didn't have any room in the bag. What I meant with this, though, it's important to have a little piece of home, because whether it's food, whether it's, I don't know, a plush, a book, something that reminds you of home or that makes you feel at home. For me, that is food. I love food, and I love Argentinian food, but it's just something to remind you of whenever you feel homesick, of being like, okay, this is, you know, my comfort zone. And I think that is very important, whatever it is, to keep that with you. Or also, for example, if it is food, finding a local market that sells your home food, or a restaurant, or also finding a community. So I think it is very important to have a little piece of home with you, just to, you know, make you feel at home while you're creating this new home, if that makes sense. I hope this is helpful. If you guys are moving countries and you have any questions, please let me know. But it can be a really stressful process, but it is also so rewarding, because, like I said, you're opening yourself up to so many new experiences and new people, new cultures, and sometimes new languages. So I think it's one of the most beautiful experiences ever. But it's just important to, yeah, stay focused, stay organized, and prioritize also mental health. There were times that I was really stressed and nights crying, and it's just like trying to relax and think that everything is gonna be all right, and just stay organized, keep doing your research, be informed, and just keep moving forward. I think that was Walt Disney. I think that's, yeah, great advice though. Keep moving forward. I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye.